And it is now time for the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. You had been listening to Mostly Metal here on WVLP, and maybe we'll get to listen to some more metal before the top of the hour. But for now, we're going to take a break from the tunes, and we're going to talk wrestling. Because everybody likes wrestling. Okay, guys, that's a little much. Yeah. Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. There we go. I mean, really, I appreciate the applause, but that's excessive. So what we're going to do here is run down some shows that are coming up in this area, either very, very close to home or not quite so close to home, but still within reasonable distance. Not only is this WrestleMania season, for those of you that are wrestling fans, this is like our Easter, right? Coming up on WrestleMania. And it's also starting to be high season for a lot of the local wrestling organizations. They, might have had a little downtime during the cold winter months, but now that spring is approaching, and frankly has been here for, some 70-degree days already, people start firing up the promotions and getting a little bit more active. So there's a lot of stuff coming up through the month of March that I'm going to tell you about. I also have some exciting news about the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program itself before we get to the shows. And that is, so far, since I've been on the air here on WVLP, I've been doing the NWIWRAP. That's the shorthand for the full name of the show, which gets exhausting to say over and over again. It's a nice title, but boy, is it tiring. NWIWRAP, W-R-A-P. And I want you to remember that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But since I've been on the air in WVLP since August, I've been doing this on the second and fourth Sundays of the month, because if it's just been me yapping about local wrestling shows, doing it every week, that would be too much, and too much time to fill, and it would get way repetitive. And maybe it's a little repetitive already anyhow, but what are you going to do? So I've been only doing it every other week or so. And I've been having a few more guests in the studio as of late. And this is turning out to be a destination radio show now. I have people asking, when can I come on the show? And so starting next week, starting tonight, actually, but next week with guests, NWIWRAP is going weekly. That's going to be pretty darn exciting. So I have guests lined up for the whole month of March. Eric King, who is the head honcho of Pro Wrestling King, was supposed to be here tonight to talk about that promotion and some things they have coming up, but he was under the weather, so he has rescheduled for next week. So starting next week, Eric King on March 5th. The week after that, Flawless Dave Allen, who is seen quite often at Fire Pro Wrestling in the area out in Merrillville. He will join me in the studio on the 12th. Jeremy Seabolt will come in on March 19th. He is the head honcho of Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling, and he'll be here to talk about Smash Fest, which is going to happen here in Valpo in April. A little bit more about that coming up soon. And on March 26th, King Bishop of ARW Pro, he will be here in the studio, and he is also a fan of horror movies, so we might have to, and good TV shows, so we might have to talk about a little bit of something other than just wrestling while he's here, but we'll see. Then April 2nd, Sunday, April 2nd, that is WrestleMania, so the odds of getting somebody in the studio that night are pretty slim. The odds of getting me in the studio that night are pretty slim. There's a good chance that the whole show, including Mostly Metal, will get pre-recorded that night. And then I'll hope that somebody invites me to a WrestleMania party. We'll see. Anyway, so we're going to try this out with guests and also reporting on shows that have happened and are to happen, maybe taking this thing to every week. It could extend into the summer, but at least through the month of March, it's going to be every week. So if you like this, you should be happy. If you don't like this, I'm very sorry that I'm cutting the metal back to 90 minutes a week. But, I get to indulge myself. What can I say? Now, there is a lot of stuff coming up, and I wanted you to remember the acronym or the abbreviation NWIWRAP, NWIWRAP, because one of the ways you can keep up with shows that are coming up in the area is to pull in what should be the publicly available NWIWRAP@gmail.com calendar. I'm trying to keep a running count, a running record of shows that are coming up in and around the area on this Gmail calendar. Should be public, so you should be able to subscribe to it, and it will populate your Google Calendar with a lot of the shows. The ones that I know about, I will put in there. And so your calendar will look a lot busier on weekends because of all the wrestling shows you can go to. And we'll talk about some of those now. NWIWRAP@gmail.com is actually an email address too, so drop me a note if you want to. If you have any information about good stuff, let me know. If you have any complaints, let me know. If you have any compliments, let me know. What else did I tell you about? Besides, let's see. Oh, yeah. metalprofessor.com/NWIWRAP. That's a web page, right? And metalprofessor.com is mine. There's a lot of junk on there that nobody in their right mind would want to look at. I'm a perpetual list keeper, like lists of comics I own, movies I've seen, books I've read. So that kind of stuff is on that web page. But there's also the /NWIWRAP. And that has details about these upcoming shows, like which matches have been announced, rundowns of shows that I've attended, and so forth. So that's another way you can try to keep tabs on these things. Or you can do what I do and just subscribe to everybody on Facebook, because that's where all my information comes from. So anyway, we've had some guests recently in the studio, like Rockstar Johnny Nye. He was here a couple of weeks ago, and he gave us a rundown on a show that he was on recently. And last weekend was a Fire Pro wrestling show called Revelations. Took place in Merrillville. I didn't get to go to that because I was at a concert in Chicago, so I don't have a lot of results to share. The matches that I knew of that happened there were Adam Bueller versus Austin Fury, Kevin Graves versus Dashing Dick Davis, and Flash Harris versus Christopher Kent. The last two matches, one was a no-holds-barred match and one was a no-DQ match. But I don't know what happened because I wasn't there. Maybe sometime soon somebody can fill us in on that. So what I want to do here is concentrate on shows that are coming up because there's a lot of stuff. In particular, coming up next Saturday, March 4th, out in South Bend, Indiana, at the O'Brien Recreation Center is RCW, Revolution Championship Wrestling. They have an event called Born to Rise. So this is kind of their kickoff event for the year. And I have a pretty complete rundown of the matches that are going to happen. So here we go. For the RCW Heavyweight Championship, currently held by Jack Thriller, there will be a triple threat match between Jack Thriller, Anthony Toatelli, and Nick Cutler. And if you've heard some of these rundowns, you should recognize all three of those names. These guys do a lot of work in the area. You've got Brutus Dillon versus Super Diva. Super Diva is coming out of retirement for one more match against Brutus Dillon. Kevin Storm versus Noah Walker and Theo Storm for Kevin Storm's U.S. title. And this is a 2-on-1 handicap match. I'm not sure why Kevin Storm wants to fight two people at once, but who's going to argue with him, right? And then, after that, Rod Street of the Police Department will take on Tank. Now, Rod Street is one of the members of the tag team, the Police Department. Tank is one of the two people in the Midwest Monsters. And those two teams will have a tag team championship match coming up at a future event. The winner of this one-on-one match between Officer Rod Street and Tank gets to choose the stipulation under which the tag team match will take place. So that's pretty cool. Luke Lawson will take on the Iron Demon Shane Mercer. Mance Warner will take on J.C. Bunyan, the mighty lumberjack of Northern Indiana. Team Legendary will be against Maltese Tiger and American Eagle. And Shady Chris Zion will take on Travis Titan. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8 matches. Couple of championship matches. Something that will set the stage for a championship match coming up later. So it's going to be a good card. And again, that's next Saturday, March 4th at 7 o'clock. Now that's Eastern time. 7 Eastern, at the O'Brien Recreation Center in South Bend, Indiana. Tickets to these shows for these various companies usually just run about $10. So maybe they're a little cheaper in advance, like 10 in advance and 12 at the door or something, but it's going to be in that neighborhood, so you can't go wrong, right? I mean, $10 for a card that's going to last 2.5 hours is pretty cool. All right, so next weekend you have your plans. Saturday, March 4th, you'll go out to South Bend with me for this wrestling show. The weekend after that is going to be very busy, and you'll have to pick some stuff. Okay, so first of all, Friday, March 10th at 7 o'clock. Now, that's Central Time now. ACW, Acme Championship Wrestling, will present Friday night fights at the Lincoln Elementary School in Roselawn, which is just south of Valparaiso. Friday night fights at an elementary school might sound a little awkward, but there is a reason. This is a fundraiser for the 6th grade trip of the school to go out to YMCA's Camp Tecumseh. So this is for a good community fundraising event. And 2 weeks ago, Rockstar Johnny Nye was in the studio talking about ACW and this event in particular. He will be on the bill, and as will Austin Fury, one of the other ACW mainstays. There will be a hardcore match between Jimmy Holmes and Spastic Slade, and a hardcore match in an elementary school gymnasium. That's got to be something to see. So keep that in mind on Friday, March 10th. Now, Saturday, March 11th, you'll have 2 things to pick from, depending on how far you want to drive. ARW Pro will hold an event at Edison High School in Lake Station, Indiana, and I'm guessing that's a fundraiser for the high school itself or an organization associated with the high school. I don't know a whole lot about the matches on the card, although the poster that's on Facebook has Mr. 3% John Hudson standing across the flyer from Officer Rod Street. So perhaps the 2 of those guys will be in a title match, because Hudson is the ARW champion at the moment. He has been for over a year. On that same night, FWF, Functified Wrestling, will have their event called Crossfire out at the Kosciuszko County Fairgrounds in Warsaw, Indiana. On that card, you'll see the police department versus the Midwest Monsters. Now, the police department is everywhere. I don't know how they do it. There's got to be clones of these guys because they're on like every show. Obviously, they're not on the ARW Pro show and the FWF show on the same night, but you know what I mean. So the police department versus the Midwest Monsters. Congo Kong versus Alexander S. Kirk for the FWF World title that's currently held by Congo Kong. And as much as I like Alexander S. Kirk, I think Congo Kong's going to win that one. Russ Jones versus Shane Mercer. That should be a good match. Jack Thriller versus Nick Cutler. And again, this is just 1 week after Jack Thriller versus Nick Cutler versus Anthony Toatelli for the RCW Heavyweight Championship on Saturday, March 4th. So Cutler and Thriller will be going against each other twice in 2 adjacent weekends. And then same card, Anthony Toatelli versus Mark Vandy. So if you're fans of these guys, like Cutler, Toatelli, Jack Thriller, you can watch them 2 weekends in a row. So, but again, it's Saturday, March 7th. You'll have to pick ARW Pro or FWF Crossfire happening the same night. And they're at the same time roughly, so you can't do one and then the other, which is a shame. And plus, one's about an hour and a half away from here. So I will probably go to the ARW Pro show. So I'm headed for RCW next weekend, and then ACW next Friday the 10th, and likely ARW Pro on Saturday the 11th. And that only gets us, a third of the way through March. After that, Friday, March 17th, RCW, Revolution Championship Wrestling again, and Strong Style Wrestling are teaming up. And I don't know if this is like a formal arrangement, but when they're teamed up like that, the overseeing organization is then known as Revolution Strong. They're doing Women's Takeover at the Battelle Center in Mishawaka, and this is an 8-woman tournament to crown the first Revolution Strong Women's Champion. So somebody will be lucky enough to wrestle 3 times in the same day or on the same night. And I think one of the women on this is Rosemary of TNA, now Impact Wrestling fame. I think they've dropped the TNA part from their name, which is probably good. But she's on TV. So she's famous, right? And she will be there. Friday, March 17th. Saturday, March 18th. This is getting a little bit farther away, but I want to mention it because it is Pro Wrestling King. They operate in the northern Indiana and north central area, and Eric King will be here next weekend to start talking about some of the events PWK has coming up. But on this Saturday, March 18th date, they will be doing punchlines and clotheslines at the 4-H Fairgrounds in Peru, Indiana. Now, Peru is quite a haul from here. I mean, it's not like going to Evansville, but it's also not like just going to South Bend either. So that's far away. It's an interesting combination of wrestling and apparently a little bit of stand-up comedy as well. But I went to a Functified Wrestling show the other week that had wrestling and a magician. So you never know what kind of combination you're going to get. This is the fourth time they've had an event so like this. It's Punchlines and Clotheslines 4. So that must be pretty successful. And next week, Eric can fill us in on what's going on. Also on Saturday the 18th, if you like driving a little bit east, and if you like lucha, Mucha Lucha will be at the Roosevelt Center in Elkhart. So Friday the 17th, you've got RCW and Strong Style Wrestling putting on their Women's Takeover show. If you're not driving all the way down to Peru on Saturday the 18th, then on Saturday the 18th, you're driving to Elkhart to see a Lucha Libre show, which could be pretty fun. And that's March. I don't know a whole lot about what's coming up the last weekend or so in March, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different shows to pick from just in the first 3 weekends of March alone. So we probably need a break by the end of March. So let's talk about April. April 2nd, again, WrestleMania. Nobody's going to have a card on maybe April 1st. I don't know. That Saturday, some people might have shows, but it's unlikely. So you won't see a whole lot of companies trying to compete against a lot of the WrestleMania festivities that will be on television the weekend of the 2nd. So everybody can stay home. Maybe I'll get invited to somebody's place for WrestleMania. But anyway, Friday, April 7th, Revolution Championship Wrestling, they are busy kicking off 2017. They're having a 7th anniversary special. It's titled 7. And I don't have a whole lot of information about who's going to be on that show just yet, although they have announced that Matt Stryker will be a special guest. He is one of the 2 announcers on Lucha Underground, which is usually carried on the El Rey network. I have to subscribe to it on iTunes because we don't have cable. But the first 2 seasons of Lucha Underground are going to be coming on Netflix pretty soon. And if you haven't seen this show, I highly recommend it. It's really unique, and it's got some good wrestling in it. But anyway, so that's RCW 7 on Friday, April 7th, 2017. So there's a lot of synchronicity there. And again, Matt Stryker will be one of the special guests, and I'm looking forward to that. And then Saturday, April 8th, here is the big day for us in Valparaiso. This is going to be Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling. It's going to be at Inman's Recreation Center, and the event is called Smash Fest. This is not just a 2.5 hour wrestling card. This is like an all-day thing. It's a fan festival. There's going to be a whole bunch of matches. I think I heard there's going to be 14 altogether. There's going to be people there to sign autographs, take pictures, sell you stuff. It's going to be a whole big deal. So put that on your calendar, Saturday, April 8th, here in Valparaiso. There's a poster for this thing on Facebook that looks like a Where's Waldo because of how many people you can see on it. And so if you zoom in on that picture like I did, you can try to recognize as many people as you can. I know some of the names already just from paying attention, and I've looked at the picture and tried to make a list of everybody else I could recognize as well. So here we go. First of all, the special general manager of this event will be Raven, and that's Raven of old ECW and WCW days. Our friend Matt Stryker will be back. He's going to be at several events in the northern Indiana region in early April. He's moving in for a week, I think. Ricardo Rodriguez, Aldo Rose, Bushwhacker Luke, Decay, that's all 3 of them, Abyss, Rosemary, and Crazy Steve, Marty Jannetty, Swoggle, Mordecai, not the one from the regular show, but the wrestler, PN News for you old-timers, Tyson Dux, or Do. I don't know if you pronounce the X or if you make it sound like fancy French. Bobby Eaton, Lightning Bolt Johnson, Congo Kong, Ray Orndorff, Fireball, Sugar Dunkerton, Drew Skills, Anthony Toatelli and Kenzie, Ken the Metal Professor, wait, that's me, but I'll be there, John Hudson, the Midwest Monsters, Ryan Howe, Angelina Love, and the highlight of the evening will be Marche Rocket and Acid Jazz. Taking on Legion, boo, for the Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles. I will be the honorary cornerman for Marche Rocket and Acid Jazz during that match. It's going to be fun. I will try not to get involved. So you've got a huge list there of people that are notable from being in WCW, ECW, WWE. Recently, a long time ago, they're going to be there for autographs and pictures and merchandise. There's going to be a lot of matches. There's a lot of names there. A whole bunch. It's going to be a who's who of folks in the local wrestling scene. So it's going to be a good time. So put that on your calendar or, again, subscribe to the NWIWRAP@gmail.com calendar. And then Friday, April 21st. Did I really say that? April 21st, ACW, Acme Championship Wrestling, will have another fundraiser. This is another one that Johnny Nye told us about a couple of weeks ago. It will be at Franklin Elementary School in Hammond, and I don't know who's going to be on that card. Okay, so a lot of wrestling going on through March. If this was too much to take in, visit metalprofessor.com/NWIWRAP or look for the NWIWRAP YouTube channel on YouTube, and the audio from this will be up there by like Wednesday or Thursday. You can have a pad of paper out. You can take careful notes. Have your calendar out. Have your notepad out. Take notes. Make your plans. Start going around mowing lawns or whatever it is we do this time of year to make some extra money so that you can buy some tickets. And that's it. That's the rundown here. And I've managed to kill almost all the time until 10 o'clock. So I'm Ken the Metal Professor. This has been me rapping for 25 minutes about wrestling on the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program, which is part of Mostly Metal here on WVLP. And I think I can squeeze in one last metal song before the top of the hour. And at the top of the hour, you get turned back over to Davo's Punk Rock Radio, a rebroadcast of a recent show of his. So come on back next week for more heavy metal. We'll talk with Eric King of Pro Wrestling King on next week's edition of NWIWRAP. Enjoy WVLP, enjoy your week, and stay metal, my friends.